PJNET.TV, starting a brand new week. It is Monday, March 23rd. Joshua J. Masters standing by in the green room. Chat room is eagerly waiting. We are recording and we are streaming on all available platforms. We will switch to Studio 6 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, welcome to a brand new week of PJNET.TV, and oh, are we off to a great start. Yes, indeed. You have come to expect the very best, but you did not come here to see me for that reason. So, let me introduce you to Joshua J. Masters. Now, shout out to Becky Lindsay for she is our acquisitions manager who recruits talent to be on the program. And well, Becky says you're really good, Joshua. Tell us why she says.
Well, I hope she didn't build me up too much.
Tell us about yourself and let's get into your blog.
Well, we have lots of friends in common, Coach, and I'm really excited to be here. But we had never met, so like you said, Becky's a friend of mine, and she connected us there. So yeah, my name is Josh Masters, and I'm a pastor, but I'm also an author, writer, and a speaker, and a follower of Christ. And so I love unity. I love all my friends. You regularly have my friend JD on, and I'm always inspired by him. So I'm happy to crew.
That's great. All right, folks. If you're hearing the audio kind of break up, just bear with it. It'll come and go. It's fine. Joshua, we are Josh, however you prefer. Pastors is not the target that we go after a lot, and Becky knows that. But you're a different kind of pastor. Describe you. Well, here, let's do the fun stuff first. The bat pastor. Really? Okay, folks, he's kind of frozen up right now. There he is. Wait, he's back. You're the bat pastor. You want to tell? There's got to be a story there.
The bat pastor fights against. I've just always been a big fan of Batman. I'm a geek in the Bat Pastor, and it's sort of stuck.
I saw the picture. Is that you? I mean, with a broadsword.
Yeah, I have a costume, or what I like, and I have gone to Comic-Cons as the Bat Pastor. And I've also worn it to, and some of my pictures there.
Okay, we caught about half that, so
okay. Oh, I'm not sure what's going on.
I don't know. Everything was fine for a few minutes there, and then it kind of deteriorated. But maybe you've got some kids in gaming in the next room. I don't know. Maybe yeah. But in any event. Your ministry, you're blogging consistently, and I forget the date, but it looks like it's a weekly thing. Is that about right?
Yeah, I usually post on Sunday.
Now, this week, of course, every blog you read nowadays is about the coronavirus, and of course, it's impacting everybody. But churches are being impacted in a different kind of way. But you have, in your most recent blog, an interesting comment that I had not thought about, because in there you say that before we can have a call to action, we have to have a call to purpose. The call to action is predicated on the purpose. So expound on that a little bit.
So comfortable in the Western church, in the American church, what our purpose is. And we forget that the church has a threefold purpose, and it's to glorify God, to build, and to be the light of Christ to a broken world. And I think very often we've become a Sunday morning culture, this is what we've been preparing for. This coronavirus is what we've been preparing for. The church isn't a social club where you're supposed to come every week and a social place where you can't live without. It's supposed to be a training ground for deployments out into a broken world. And so this is what we've been training for all along, even though we can't meet together right now. And we do want to meet together because that's where we build one another up. That's where we encourage one another. That's where we grow. But our ultimate goal is to leave the church, to go outside the church. The church does its best church business outside the building of the church. And so this is what we've been training for. We need to go out and show the compassion of Christ the way that the church historically has shown compassion in times of crisis. The biggest growth in church history has always been in times of crisis. When the Romans would throw unwanted babies, literally throw them away, or throw the dying into the streets, it was the Christians that came and adopted the unloved. It was the Christians that came and helped the sick that nobody else would help. When the bubonic plague came, Martin Luther said, no, stand your ground. The main thing that we need to do is show the love of Christ. And so it was always in moments of crisis that the church really exploded, because when we truly have a consuming compassion, the same compassion for people that Jesus has, the world takes notice. They see nobody else is acting like this. Why are these people acting like this? How can they love so selflessly? So this is what we've been training for. It doesn't matter for right now or can't practice. It doesn't matter right now that we can't have our small groups. What matters is what we've been called to do, supposedly what we've been training to do all these weeks that we've been in church.
You have uncorked a lot there. I'm going to say something that I'd like to get your reflections on, because it's going to be a little shocking. So you couldn't possibly have prepared for this answer that you're going to give.
You're setting me up.
I'm setting you up. Okay, now, if there were no God, church would still be a pretty good place to go anyway. What do you think?
Well, sure. I mean, there's lots of social gatherings that are good places. It's just a matter of whether or not you have a purpose. You know, I mean, certainly you can have church. There's lots of churches without a God. There are many false religions where people get together and they love going to their church. But that doesn't mean that their God is real just because they enjoy being there. Primarily, the church is supposed to be a training ground for us to do the work of the kingdom, to be ambassadors of Christ to the world. So I think the answer to your question is yes, absolutely. If there was no God, church could still be a great place to go to, because there's lots of them in the world.
Okay, you did good. All right. Well, first let me affirm something that you said, because you earlier you were saying that, Christians, that people will ask, well, why are you doing this? Well, I know a scripture. I don't know the exact address. I can't quote it verbatim, but I know it well in my heart. They will know we are Christians by our theological knowledge, our righteousness, and our good appearance, right?
I think you must have a different translation than me. Mine says, you will be known by how you love one another.
There you go. It's about love. Yeah. And this is part of the purpose. Folks, you're going to see all kinds of stuff out there that, you need to do this, you need to do that. But Josh is calling for something a little bit deeper. This is what we've been training for. So the call to action, I've seen a lot of them, but they all have to do with self-preservation, Josh.
Yeah, we're not called to self-preservation. This world is limited, and this world is temporary. So nowhere in Scripture does it say protect yourself. Now, I don't mean that we shouldn't protect ourselves medically, that we shouldn't take precautions. Absolutely, we should follow the guidelines that are given to us by the authorities that God has put over us. But we should have a sort of consuming compassion that forces us to move past our fears, past our anxieties, and care for others in a way that the rest of the world is not willing to do.
What's your take on all the churches all of a sudden going online?
I love it. I love that the churches are online. I think nothing beats meeting in person. You know,
Mm-hmm.
relationships are built face to face. However, the internet and social media are a language. When we send someone out into another country, when we send a missionary into another country, we teach them the language, we teach them the culture, and then we say, go explain to these people who Jesus is and tell about his great love in the language that they understand and in a cultural context that they understand. You never change the story, you never change the truth, but you explain it within the culture that they're used to.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't do that with the internet. We don't do that with social media. And that's exactly what we should do, because social media is the language of a culture. And so we need to send missionaries into that. I think that there's a lot of churches that are being exposed to that and I think it's great. I think it's great that they're going to have the opportunity. Now, my hope is that when this pandemic is over, we don't just go back to the same old, same old. My hope is that we are finding new ways to and that we will keep moving forward. You know, we should be asking anytime that there's something like this that's happening, we should be spending time alone with Christ and asking him as individual churches and as individual people, what is God trying to teach us? What is he trying to show us? So if we go back to the way things were before, have we ignored what God was trying to teach us the whole time? I think that he's giving us an opportunity, and I'm excited about that.
I am too. And when I first got in college, one of the first courses I took was called Modes of Communication. And when we think about communication, I hadn't had a college education yet. I'm thinking, well, there's reading and there's writing, there's broadcast, radio and television, but I'd never thought of other forms of expression. Now, this was back in the late 70s, for goodness sakes. But my eyes kind of got opened. This was way before the internet, but anything that you can do that would acquire an audience is a mode of communication. Well, social media is, in my opinion, the greatest mission field opportunity that we have ever experienced, and yet so much of what I see is squandered and is wasted on the exact opposite of what we ought to be using it for.
Yeah, I would agree. But social media is just like anything else in the world. The enemy is a counterfeiter, so he will take anything that is good and corrupt it by creating a counterfeit version of it. So when God created music. God loves music. Music was created by God, but the enemy also creates counterfeit music mm-hmm. that glorifies him, or at least steals glory from God. So everything is like that. Social media is like that, where I think the enemy uses vanity a lot. Even in now I'm going to get in trouble. This might be my last time on, but many of us that are in the writing community live in this sort of weird balance where publishers want you to constantly be promoting yourself. And you have to walk that balance between glorifying God and bringing attention to what you're doing. And it's a hard balance. So I think the enemy uses vanity to corrupt social media. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have the potential to be reclaimed for God's glory.
Tell me about your church. We had a discussion earlier today. What was it? Pass It Forward. Something like that.
Pass It Forward.
Yeah.
Pass It Forward is one of our care pastors at a fairly large church. Our focus on everything is to draw people into a relationship with Jesus, but part of that is going out into the world, of course. So our Pass It Forward team is a ministry that goes out and does things for people. If they need a new roof, or they need a deck done, or they need help in their house, or help with their car. We have people with different expertise from the community of the church who are willing to use their expertise to help those who are in need. And that glorifies God, right? Because Jesus said, whatever you've done to the least of these, you've actually done for me. So we're glorifying God by serving others.
It's encouraging, and it's funny. We do all this doctrinal stuff, we do all these studies, and yet we seem to be missing so many obvious things. Jesus, and we Christian means Christ like. So I kind of
Mm-hmm.
look at Jesus, and here's some observations that I've made. Tell me if I'm off base, or am I missing something? First of all, Jesus went to people and met their needs first, their physical need. There were people who were infirm in many ways, and yet we're missing the mark there. I think as the church body, as organized religion, I think we've adopted a y'all come posture instead of we go posture.
Yeah, and that's the exact opposite of what we've been called to do. I think that that's true with a lot of churches in the Western world, in the American church, that we believe, we sit in our pews or in our safe plush chairs, and we say, "Why is the world so broken? Why aren't people coming to church?" Well, they're not supposed to come to us. We're supposed to go to them. Again, it comes back to what I said before, that the church is a training ground. We glorify God, we build one another up. But the reason that we build one another up is to go out into the world, to leave the church and go meet the needs of people who are hurting.
I think this recent pandemic has revealed that the church is not the building, or at least it's showing us, whether we get it or not. The church never has been about a building. We use buildings, we have buildings, they serve a purpose, but the church is the body.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I guess we'll see. The proof is in the pudding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it has the potential to do that. But if we as Christians just buy into the same anxiety as everybody else, eventually this is going to pass, just like every other pandemic has passed, and the world will find a new normalcy. It'll go back to what it's always done. So it's just a question of, are we willing to be something greater, or better yet, are we willing to be what we were supposed to be all along?
I remember, I forget. I forget where I heard somebody say, measuring spiritual growth is kind of complicated. I'm a sociologist, so statistics and, regression analysis and chi-square and all that means something to me. But how do you measure spiritual growth? And I was talking to a pastor about this who knew nothing about all the science and statistical acumen that I have. He said, and I started rambling off my, mathematical skill. He said, stop. You don't measure spiritual growth in the seats, you measure it in the streets.
Yes,
That's pretty profound.
it is. Well, how do you measure how healthy a tree is?
Well, I would cut it down and look inside, but that would kill
You
it.
just cut it down. No, the healthiest trees have fruit. The healthiest trees have fruit.
Mm-hmm.
If a tree is not producing fruit, then it's not healthy. And so, is there fruit in your life? And it doesn't mean a better job or maybe nothing wrong with either one of those, but if someone is spiritually growing, there should be spiritual fruit.
Mm-hmm. And they will know we are Christians by our, love. That's what it means.
That's right.
Well, Pastor,
That's right.
we're about down to a minute or so. Is there anything like that we've kind of, something you wanted to say that I didn't tee it up well enough and give you the parting words here?
No, I think that's great. If you want to learn about praying for the country, can I mention my book?
You have a book, by all means. I'm going to put your website up on the screen too.
American Psalms. And I'm actually giving away a copy of this book on my website right now. I'm doing a book giveaway, so you can go to joshuajmasters.com/free. And this is a book that teaches people how to pray for the country without the politics. It's focused on God's sovereignty, not the sovereignty of the Republicans or the Democrats.
There you go. Yeah, I did notice when I went to your website, there's a section called free stuff. What?
Yeah, I want my website to have value. So there's all kinds of free downloads. You just join my mailing list and you get the password and you can download a bunch of free stuff.
That's great, Pastor. I appreciate it. Hey, thanks for sharing. Wish we had a little bit more time, but and sorry we had some connection issues. Some of the audio sounded, well, pretty bad to tell you the truth, but the message will come through. I certainly hope, because you've blessed us by sharing with us tonight, Pastor. And we just wish you the very best. And if there's anything PJNet, our family would love to help you in any way that we can. I hope that you'll put us on notice when you need some soldiers to go to war out there. And he's probably saying something like, yeah, that's
cool. Certainly will. It's been great meeting you.
All right, Pastor. Thank you so much. Folks, PJNet.tv is live. We are on the air. If you're watching this recorded, well, that's great too. Join us live at PJNet.tv about 9 p.m. Eastern. It's when we start. And you know what? We have something new coming up at 9:30. Casper. We'll have Casper's Take all the way out in Colorado. So I've got to build everything, tear it down, build it all back up, but I got to leave. So I'll leave you with 2 questions. Number 1, what is the boldest thing you've ever done for Jesus Christ? Question number 2, when was that? It is my hope and my prayer that none of us will ever be satisfied with either answer.